Long time no see, everyone. Holy shit, it's been a while. It's been week and a couple days actually. It's been a hot minute.
Been a long time. It feels
Been a
like more
hot
like
minute.
2 weeks,
It
honestly.
kind of does a little bit, not gonna lie,
Um,
but super glad to be back. Glad to be back home. Thank God, finally. Um, Overall, it was. I know we didn't talk much before we jumped on, but it was an
right.
awesome trip. It was great. Like
Yeah,
got a lot of skiing in. Saw some wildlife, which was pretty cool. It was fucking cold every day, but that's okay.
it's fine.
Saw an
What do you
owl.
expect? Like, what did you expect?
Yeah, well, I saw an owl.
That's cool.
What was it
Wait,
last?
snow owl? Was it a snow
Yes.
owl?
It was like white and gray. It looked like.
That might be a snow owl.
Yeah, I think it was a
Which,
snow owl.
which fun fact for anybody that does know, it is one of the few owls that you cannot have as a pet. Like, as much as people want to
Right.
be Harry Potter every 2 seconds, you can't because they will hurt you. Like, they
They
will.
will visit. They're
They
looking for food,
they
man.
can't they can't live in that type of, like, captivity. It's not their
Yeah.
thing, but
A cool one I'll show you here. Like on Friday was the day we were leaving, this past Friday,
right.
and that apparently was the day that we saw everything. So like you can see in this one
Yeah.
here, like there's elk.
Nice.
I know people for listening, you probably can't
Canada's
see.
version of deer.
Yeah, so we saw elk right beside the road, just whatever, minding their
Just
own business.
whatever.
Yeah, we saw an owl, which was cool. Saw a fox, which was cool.
Mm,
What else?
love that.
The mountain sheep too.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
Wow.
really cool. So we saw a lot of
Where
wildlife.
was this specifically?
It was mostly outside of Banff in a town called Canmore.
Nice.
Yeah, it was really
Nice.
cool though.
I heard Banff is a very, like, big touristy place
So
for
you know
people
what's
to go.
funny that we learned? That was my 4th or 5th time being there over the past like
Really?
my whole life. Yeah. So
Okay.
my dad loves skiing out there and I've been very
Love it.
cordial and very happy to tag along with him and we go and ski at Lake Louise. The funny part is like you expect it to be busy in the winter there because of the skiing attractions, right? You
Right.
got mountains on mountains there. There's about 4 or 5 different mountains you can go to in a span of like 45-minute drive, right?
Sure.
We were talking to a guy on the chairlift on the way up on one of the runs, and he goes, "Man, the busiest time is summertime. It's a zoo.
Really?
4.5 million people were in Banff in July last year.
Wow.
It's unbelievable."
There's still
And
snow there and everything?
no, oh, in July. No. The snow is usually there until like like May, I think,
Okay.
even close to
Wow,
June.
that's
Like their
actually
snow lasts a while, right?
wow, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so but the funny thing is like I've been going there now a couple of times. If you go in the winter, there's not a lot to do unless you're a skier or a snowboarder. And if you want to go in the summer,
Yeah.
great, but you got to deal with so many people, right? And the hotels are all booked up.
Yeah.
So,
I I'd rather
if
go
yeah,
I'd rather go in the winter
go in
personally.
the 100%. Winter is
I'm not
such a
even
fun time
like,
to
the
go.
thing is, like, I'm not even a skier or, like, a snowboarder myself, but, like,
Mhm.
I would still go to stuff like that just to experience, like, seeing it.
Yeah, to say that you've been there. Yeah.
Yeah, just to say that I've been there. Because, in New Jersey, like, we've been getting a lot of snow recently. Like, we just had, like, 50-mile-an-hour winds that knocked down several big trees, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
I gotta
Um
show you another one here. Yeah, yeah,
It's,
yeah, yeah.
it's not fun, but, like, no, I mean, I've always wanted to check out some place like that, go to, like, a lodge and stuff like that, so, like, it's really cool, and
So,
considering that I'm
y
probably gonna be starting school up in, upstate New
yes,
York, I'll
Syracuse,
be,
yeah,
a lot closer to places like that.
yeah. Um, Speaking of the snow, you mentioned it. We came back. I'll tell you about the flight in a second too, and then
Yeah.
we'll get to some news because it
Did
was
you
hilarious.
did you take a bus back, but took a flight there,
Yeah,
or
so my mom picked me up from up north. She came and visited for the weekend, brought me down. I can drive people. It's just easier because I don't have to take a bus and it's expensive as hell. It's
you
like
don't
a
have to
hundred
pay
bucks for like
anything?
a 3-hour ride. It was
You
stupid.
don't have to pay anything for your mom to drive you back.
Ridiculous, right? Yeah, okay, I'll
Right,
buy her dinner, whatever.
right.
Um, but yeah, no, I took a bus to their place, and then from my parents' place to the airport, it's 45 minutes, and it's not Toronto. It's in a smaller town that can still fly out to Calgary, which is great.
Oh,
Um, but you mentioned the snow. When we came back on Saturday morning,
yes.
holy shit.
I
Just
heard
to give you
about this.
perspective, like it when I went out to help snowblow,
Mhm.
no joke, it was up to my nipples. No, like and you can see
Oh,
it was
Jesus.
so I have never in my life seen snow hit that high. And then I come up north expecting more. No, we got less. It
Yeah.
makes no sense. But yeah, I don't know if it was the same for you. We got hammered.
No, was it was more just like depending on where you were in New Jersey, it was either rain or snow or a combination of both. We didn't get a whole lot,
Mm,
as much as the weather people tried to like make it seem like that was the wind the last 2 days has been the big thing. And
crazy.
like our whole street right now is blocked off because a big tree from across the street fell down onto a bunch of the telephone wires. Now, what's ironic is that we are one of the few houses that is not on the same grid
Right.
as the rest of the houses on this street. So even though when it knocked down, we were like one of the few houses that still had power. So we have been fortunate that we didn't lose power. We didn't, we could still like use everything, but like it is unfortunate that
Yeah.
that happened. But like they're working on it as we speak. It took them 2 freaking days to get over here and do it, but they're doing it now. So hopefully, maybe by the end of today or tomorrow, it'll be
It'll
all
be,
good. But I
yeah.
did see, because obviously we're going to talk about the Four Nations today. I did see that prior to the game between Canada and Finland, I think it might have been John Cooper said that Canada didn't even get in to
Yeah.
Boston until what, like 6 a.m.?
6 a.m. Sunday morning because
6
it
a.m.
was such
Yeah,
a torrential. It was the worst winter storm in, I don't know, 50 years, I think.
yeah.
It was incredible. It was unbelievable. And yet we were dealing with sunshine out west and we were like, "Oh man, that sucks timing wise."
Yeah, but
Yeah.
hey, I mean, good for. I mean, Canada didn't use it as an excuse. They
Yeah. They
I
almost
you
had to use
can't
it
in a
as an
tournament like this.
excuse.
You can't use it. Now, I will
They
say
almost
that.
did.
Yeah, I will say that if they if they blew it yesterday, I feel like people would have made that an excuse,
Oh,
which I don't agree with.
1,000%. No,
But
you can't. You
you
can't
know,
use that as an excuse, right?
no,
Um,
no,
yeah, then last thing, real quick story that I thought was, and I want your opinion on it more or less,
sure,
but so we took WestJet, great airline.
never heard of it, but okay.
West no, well, I guess it's more of a Canadian thing, but anyway,
WestJet, I'd have to look
WestJet,
it up.
look it
Keep
up.
talking,
Anyway,
I'm gonna look it up.
so, flight times weren't
Oh,
fantastic going there and coming
West.
back. So going
Oh, yeah.
there, it was 6:30 in the morning,
Oh, cool.
right? And we landed at, like, I don't know,
It's a
10 o'clock.
Canadian-based airline, FYI.
Yeah, so
So
there
that's
you go.
why I've never heard it. Like, I could probably use it if I was going. I think it's only in Canada. Like, I think you can only use it to fly to other places in Canada.
Yeah, unless you take it from, like, New York to, like, Toronto or I don't know if it into Canada or whatever, right? Anyway,
Yeah.
um, overall, we've never had a problem really with WestJet. WestJet's for most, everybody's got their own opinion, but just in our personal experience, it's been
Mhm.
fine, right? No problem.
Mhm.
So flight times weren't great, right? So we left out of a small town called Waterloo at like 6:30 in the morning, and we
That where the
landed.
is that where the seltzer comes from? That same brand? Because it's
Yes,
called Waterloo. Is that where it's from?
yeah, it's Kitchener
Oh,
Waterloo. That's what it's called.
that's
Yeah,
cool. No,
yeah.
fun fact.
Also,
I love
Kitchener
Waterloo,
Range
FY.
and Kitchener Rangers, by the way, for the OHL. So yeah, flight times weren't great. 6:30 in the morning, you land there. It's 2 hours behind, right? So we landed there at like 10 in the morning, but it was
Time zone,
okay.
yep.
Yeah, the full day, whatever, right?
Mhm.
Coming back, our flight was at 7:30 at night in Calgary. Okay.
Okay.
By the time we would have landed in Kitchener, right? You change back the clock to Eastern time, which is us right now. It would
Mhm.
have been 1 a.m., right? And we still have a 45-minute drive home,
Yeah.
right? Not ideal, not terrible though, right? It
Mhm.
could be a lot worse. So we get on the plane, okay? Everything's normal. We get on the plane, no problem, okay? I get
Mhm.
sat next to Cowboy Joe. And this guy was full blown, and I commend him. He was full blown, like he had the black hat, he had the red shirt, he had like the black vest, he had everything. He
Okay.
wanted to, yeah, and you know what? He had a mustache that looked like Austin Matthews. Incredible. So
What a guy
that
to be
wasn't the
next
moral of the
to.
story. I just wanted to mention that
Yeah.
he was a very nice guy, right?
Cool.
We get on the plane, we all sit, right? Probably sitting there for 10, 20 minutes, and then they go on the microphone and go, so there's just a bit of a maintenance issue. We're gonna try and fix this as quick as possible, whatever, blah
Nice.
blah blah bullshit. We'll be out on the
Of course.
runway in 10 minutes. I'm still like, okay, whatever. Like, it's not a big
Yeah.
deal.
Whatever.
The
Yeah.
captain comes out of the cockpit,
Oh, no.
gets on the microphone, and says, everybody's got to deboard the plane, right? We now had to move to another gate, and we didn't take off until 9:30, so 2
Oh,
hours later. We didn't land until Eastern Time Zone, 3 in the morning.
mm,
We got home at almost 5 AM. Sucked. But
it's
I want
brutal.
your take on it,
Sure.
because
Yeah.
I'm none of us are experts here on planes,
Yeah.
okay? But doesn't it make common sense to make sure that the plane is ready to go before you bring people on?
So this has always been a very controversial topic because of just how things are operated. And it really, I have learned over time, Kyle, that it really does depend on said airline. Like
Oh, of
I
course,
thought for the
100%.
longest time
Yes.
it was like a typical airplane. No, 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 no. This is, however, the airline wants to run things is how they'll run them.
Sure.
So the way that I look at it from that perspective, and like I don't know WestJet from God, like I don't know, like it sounds like Spirit Airlines to me, like the same vibe. I don't know, but
It's not as the reputation is not as bad as Spirit.
right.
Yeah.
What I have learned is that the later in the day that you fly, the more likely you're going to run into problems. That's why
Interesting.
a lot more people tend to try to get like the first or second flight out of the day because the planes are usually a lot more taken care of in the morning.
Sure.
They're more, especially during the week. Again, these are things that I've learned from experience on my own end.
Okay.
Um, but it's really like what's really frustrating is that there's always something that is usually minor that ends up causing the biggest problem. Now, they
Everything.
don't tell you what exactly the problem was. They just tell you to get off the plane, which
Right.
is really annoying. Um, but yeah, like it is the responsibility of the airline to make sure that its employees are very well um,
Kept.
educated in
Yeah.
like how to prepare for each flight.
Sure.
Um, and it all it takes is one person.
Oh,
All it takes is
for
one
sure.
person to screw everything up. I've
Yeah.
learned this. So, fortunately enough for me, right? I'm flying to Nashville on Thursday, and
Yeah.
I'm taking a 12:45 flight. So like I have a semi decent chance of like having things go perfectly
Smoothly.
fine.
Sure.
And it's not a long flight either from New Jersey. I think it's like less than 2 hours.
It's a nothing
So
flight,
it's a
probably. Yeah.
nothing flight and we're only 1 hour. It's a 1 hour time difference.
Yeah.
I believe. I think they're in
Yep.
the mid tier. I don't remember the name of it. But I have had experience in the past um, with airlines. Like when I was with my ex girlfriend, we were flying from Orlando because we were in Disney. The flight, I think we changed flights like 3 times.
Oh,
Not
fuck.
not like, but because they kept like there was just delays because of a storm that was happening on the East Coast, not on the East Coast, but like in like Philly and New York and New Jersey,
Yeah,
and
yeah, that was there.
it
Yeah.
was it was like so brutal. And we were originally supposed to leave at like I think like 7
Mm,
in the evening, so like not a big deal. Then it
sure.
got to 9, then it got to 11. Then we finally are on the plane, it's moving towards the runway. And then all of a sudden 5 minutes go by and the pilot tells us, "Oh, we got to turn around and restock up on fuel." And I'm
On
just like, "How do you?"
fuel. How do
Yeah,
you
and
get to the run? That's
how do you
horrifying, though. What?
well, that's the thing. It's not the first time that I've been on a plane where like fuel was low. I've been on one where I was flying out of Phoenix and we were in the air and they realized they were low on fuel, so we had to freaking
How the
turn around and
fuck
go
do you
back.
realize that, man?
It's like it's
Oh,
awful. It's awful. But it's less horrifying when you're on the runway. Because then
oh, for sure.
like if you run out of fuel, you're just stuck on the
Yeah,
runway. But
yeah.
if you're
I
like,
get it.
in the air and you're low on it, it's like, well, better kiss your lucky stars goodbye.
Fuck.
And with what's been happening right now, I don't know if you've been noticing with all the some of the
Well, we
flights
saw what
that
happened at Delta, right,
at
with Toronto to
Delta, there
Minneapolis,
was one that
or
ended up
vice versa.
upside down. I can understand. I mean, look, is there worry on my end with flying? Like, yeah, absolutely, considering what the hell has been happening.
Yeah.
But I also look at it as like, you know, how frequent is this happening? What is the likelihood that it actually is going to happen? Like, there's so many
Yes.
things.
Yeah,
Flying in general is way, way too much of a hassle many times. I've
absolutely.
learned. I don't know how these NHL players deal with it, especially if there's delays. I don't know how they. It's
There's not.
crazy.
Well, I mean, well, also too, like they get their own private jet. They
But
just
still, like then you
yeah.
have the situation like with Canada did, where like you're not getting into to Boston until 6 a.m.
But that's out of their control too.
I
Like,
know, but like
right?
that's what I'm saying. Like you have
Yeah,
that anxiety of like there's nothing you can do. There's
yeah,
literally nothing you can do.
of
So it's
course.
kind of it's it's an interesting experience. It's not fun.
And you know what? Like,
It's
you know
not
what?
fun.
Like after bitching, complaining about it, it's like, okay, you know what? Thank you for telling us now, and not in the end,
Right.
right? Like that's the moral,
Or
right?
like an
Like,
hour, like you're sitting there for maybe an hour and a half and nobody's telling you anything, and then they finally tell you.
yeah,
Like you'd rather they just tell you up front,
yeah,
just
for
so
sure.
that your expectations are already like, all right, this is probably not going to go well.
Yeah. And honestly, whatever. It was fine at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Like you get home and all is good and that's what matters. So
sure.
overall, great trip. Thought it was a funny experience,
We
but
we
yeah,
do have
overall
some
it was good.
breaking news, by the
Ooh.
way,
Okay. Let's
um,
hear it.
involving the Four Nations. Charlie McAvoy is out for Thursday's game, Four
Okay.
Nations final,
So
due to an upper body injury.
I actually have the card up here. Let's just dive right into it then. So, gearing up for a final here on Thursday. We'll kind of go back a little bit and look at the round robin because we haven't really had a chance to talk about the
Mm,
games beforehand. But yeah, you mentioned it, right? We talked about before we jumped on McAvoy, all of a sudden he has a bit of a collision yesterday and now it hinders it going into the final. So it's amazing how the events change from Saturday to Thursday because Canada being without Cale Makar was big.
It,
I
it
thought
played a big part. Yeah,
it played a big part. I thought they played well defensively in his absence, despite it being a pretty close game for the majority of the game.
I blame Bennington for
We
that.
all blame Bennington.
I'd
We
be
know.
honest with you,
Yeah.
like the goal he gave up to, I think it was Dylan Larkin. No, what
Oh,
was no,
no, Gensel to
no,
Gensel
it
on
was the
Saturday.
Gensel goal. I was
Yeah,
like,
that was like,
it's like
dude, come
you
on.
can't let that go
No.
through. Like,
So
yeah,
being without Cale Makar is big for Canada.
hmm
I would almost make the argument it might be bigger for the US Thursday in this different scenario to
correct.
not have McAvoy in this lineup. So now that we see that, now we're getting ready for Thursday's final.
hmm
Two things that'll throw your way. One, now that we get the breaking news that McAvoy is not
Sure.
out, how big of an impact in your eyes is he going to be? So that's number one.
Okay.
Number two, Jack Eichel mentioned it yesterday after the game, where this is going to be his, like, he's been in Stanley Cup Finals, he's won the cup, he's been in the Olympics. This is the
Has he been
biggest
in the
game.
Olympics?
Maybe or maybe not the Olympics, World Juniors or World
Well,
Championships.
yeah, I
Sorry,
was gonna say, I think,
World Juniors or something like
yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry.
hmm
He mentioned it afterwards, where he goes, "This is going to be the biggest game of my career."
hmm
Is this? Does this have the same feeling of for a lot of guys being the biggest game of their life for Canada and the US coming up on Thursday?
Yeah. So to answer the first part of the question with Charlie McAvoy, it's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge because look, you already lost. You already had lost Quinn Hughes before the tournament even started, which would have made a difference, on the back end. Then you're losing Charlie McAvoy, so you're already shorthanded going into this defensively, which is unfortunate. You're losing two of your better offensive defensemen, guys who can, make plays with the puck. McAvoy is also physical, which I think losing that type of just losing that is unfortunate, is really unfortunate. So the United States, who I thought didn't play that poorly of a defensive game last night in their 2-1 loss to
Close game.
Sweden,
Yep.
um, it's going to provide a challenge. And it's going to put pressure on them like it put pressure on Canada when Cale Makar wasn't playing, because now the series has shifted to American soil.
Yes.
And you're getting a pissed off Canada team, a team that is not happy with the way that they played and how that game finished against the United States a couple days ago.
Hmm.
Now they have the ultimate opportunity to get the perfect revenge. You beat the United States and you steal the entire tournament away from them on American soil. I mean, this is great. This is great.
Yeah.
So yeah, losing Charlie McAvoy sucks, especially considering that this was his opportunity to play for his country on his own home ice. I was thinking yesterday, Brad Marchand had a couple of good chances to score. I said that place the roof would have blown
Oh,
off if Brad
incredible. Yeah.
Marchand had scored. That's so
And
it's
by the way, that game on Saturday was the greatest game I've witnessed since probably 2010 of
100%.
the final.
It was great. It
2010
was
Olympic final. That's how long it's been.
Yeah, I want to go deeper into the significance of that game if
Mhm.
we have time,
Do it.
because I talked about it earlier, but I'll get to that in a minute. The second part of your question, which now I've forgotten,
Oh,
so I was
so
on a
like,
roll.
well, with Eichel saying after the game yesterday, where he was,
Oh,
yeah.
right,
How big of
yeah.
an impact is this going to be for these guys on Thursday?
It's impactful for the guys that have never played at the international level before.
Right.
For guys who, yeah, the World Juniors, it's not that. I'm going to be honest with you. The World Juniors is not the World Juniors. The World Championships is not that big of a tournament.
No,
Okay,
not the World
and
Championships. No.
for a lot of players, it's just an opportunity to keep playing. If you're not in the playoffs,
Yep.
which is great
Yep.
because I think
You
that
are.
works out for a lot of guys. Um, but I think when you look at the significance of this game, right? You look at the fact that it's obviously USA Canada. You have two amazing hockey rivals. I know that people don't want to bring politics into sports, but the reality is that with a certain someone who runs the United
Yep.
States wanting to do certain things to Canada, I think that
It was a collision course. It was
adds
such.
a level
Yeah.
of hatred. It adds a level of discontent.
Of course.
Um, then you have obviously the United States really being super physical against Canada, and I think Canada wasn't 100% expecting that right off the gate. But it sent a message, and now
Of course. Absolutely. It
and
sent the
everyone's been
message.
hyping up the United States this whole tournament. Oh, this is like the best United States team we've had in a long time, which is true. This is the best United States team on an international level that we have seen since 2010. Now,
Mhm.
unfortunately, what happened in 2010 is something the United States wants to avoid going into this game.
Yeah.
Um, and so I agree with Jack Eichel for a lot of guys that have never been in an opportunity like this. Now, I think their opinion might change next year in the Olympics. Maybe I'm wrong, depending on how things go.
Mhm.
But for guys like Jack Eichel, Matthew Tkachuk, who was on the broadcast yesterday, said the exact same thing. Brady Tkachuk, Jack Hughes, Austin Matthews, all of these guys were children the
Yeah.
last time that the United States played, from the men's perspective, a super meaningful game at the pro level.
Mhm.
Because obviously the United States has played Canada in World Juniors recently, and that's obviously big, but this is massive. And I will just say this. The NHL, you and I both know, Kyle, the NHL doesn't always do a good job of promoting its product and making it really interesting for people to watch.
Yeah.
What happened on Saturday,
Yeah.
what's happening going into Thursday,
Yeah.
is exactly what the NHL has needed for a long, long time. I cannot
Yeah.
tell you the amount of people on social media and in the streets were talking about what happened on Saturday. I was at a basketball game, a college basketball game on Sunday, and people around me were talking about what happened on Saturday
Yeah.
between the United States and Canada. I mean, my goodness, JJ Watt in the NFL reporters, NBA reporters, that game alone was better than the entirety of NBA All-Star weekend. You could make that argument.
It 1,000%.
And look,
Right.
PK Subban was on ESPN's First Take this morning
And
talking about
because
what,
they had to talk about it, because the NBA was such a dud.
of course, because
Right.
right now this game is the biggest sporting event that we've had since the Super Bowl, unfortunately.
I think I don't think it's an understatement to say what happened on Saturday, I think changed the landscape of the four major sports.
It created a whole new generation of
I think
hockey fans.
I
I'm
think
telling you right now.
exactly. It I think that was such a cultural shift. Massively. They have now, what essentially the NHL has done off of this little tournament, which nobody was really expecting. Like, I don't know how, like, credit to the players. All the
Credit to them.
credit goes to the players, man. They were phenomenal, right? And for it to be like that, and as you mentioned it politically too, like, as tough as it is, like, I just think it's bad timing, right? Because of the
Right.
whole shit show that's been going on. For it to kind of emasculate into that, and for the fisticuffs to come out in 9 seconds, right?
It was
Like,
awesome.
it was unbelievable, right?
Even the
And these
refs were
guys,
like,
and it showed, like,
yeah.
these guys, as much as Gary Bettman said it too, like, we're about the regular season, the playoffs, and the Stanley Cup. Fuck
Oh,
that. That's out the window now. Are
well,
you
now
kidding
people
me?
are going to want to watch the playoffs. Now you're going to get a lot more people who are going to watch the
Right.
playoffs
But
now,
also, too, like, you
or
know,
hockey in general.
that's the type of play you want to see every night, right?
Exactly.
Right. When
Yeah.
Toronto plays Montreal, when Pittsburgh plays Philadelphia, you want the fuck yous. We don't want your fucking team to win, right? That's the shit
Right.
we need to see, right? So
Yeah.
with what happened on Saturday, listen, everything about it was great, right? I didn't two things I didn't love though. I'm going to say this, right?
Mm.
And this I might get heat for this, but I don't care. I think it needs to be said.
Yes. Drop it.
In
I want
terms
some hot
of the
takes.
game itself, right?
Sure.
In the game, right?
Hmm.
On the US side of things, if I'm a fan, I don't know if I necessarily love the fact that, Kachuk and then Miller all go at it, right? And
Hmm.
mind you, they won the game, blah, blah, blah. It's great. I didn't love it in
Hmm.
the sense that you lose those guys for the first few minutes of probably the biggest game up to that point of their lives, right? You lose those guys for a couple of minutes. Canada, ergo, has a power play. They eventually go off of it. McDavid scores when they're still off the ice, right?
Right.
So, 100%. You want to set the tone. They did it physically. They came back on the ice, and that was great. I
That
just
reminds
didn't
me
like
so
it.
much. Like when you said that, that reminds me of that scene. Did you ever watch Shorzy?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Like,
I just watched it last
do you
night.
remember? Do you remember like the scene where like Shorzy
Set
gets
the
told,
fucking tone.
"Yeah, yeah, let's set the fucking,"
Set
and
the tone. And
someone
that's what they
clipped it. I
did.
gotta find it. Someone clipped it. Said Brady and Matthew Kachuk in the locker room before their game against Canada and said, "Let's
Yeah.
set the fucking tone."
And you know what? Like, yes, like I'm not disputing it. It was great. Like, for them to do, like, of course, for them to do that, like, it's a big moment for them. And I totally, totally get it. Right.
Yeah.
Just as a fan, just on the side, I'm just kind of like, okay, but you lose these guys to the first like 5 minutes, depending how long
Yeah.
if the whistle never blew, they could have been out for
And
the first half of the first period.
Matthew Kachuk did get banged up from that.
And he did get banged up.
They get
So
banged
it's
up.
like, okay, there's
So.
a little bit of repercussions from it, right? Still great. Not disputing it, right?
Hmm.
The other thing that I didn't love after the game was over, even
Hmm.
before the game, right? It is political, but it was bullshit of the Canadians to do that at the anthem. I think it's weak.
I was actually going to bring that up
It
because
was bullshit.
I know that
Yeah.
that's been
It
a topic of
it
controversy. So I
it
want to
was
hear your
bullshit.
thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was horse shit, and
Hmm.
we're better than that, right?
Hmm.
Because if you remember a long time ago, I don't remember when it was, but it was I don't know if it was in Montreal or wherever it was in Canada, but they were singing the
Hmm.
national anthem for the US, and the mic got cut out, and the Canadians picked it up. Like, that's who
Yeah.
we are, right? That I don't think displayed who we are on Saturday, and I was really disappointed with that. The other thing
Yeah.
I was disappointed too on the US side of things afterwards, right? Two things. Just reading everything on social media just made it feel so disgusting afterwards. Like, that's the kind of, like, I love the rivalry. I love everything about it.
Hmm.
But the fact that it came at a really bad time and politically it got involved,
Yeah.
it kind of sucks, right? And it's like you got to
That's
read
out
all
of the
this
players'
shit.
control. I mean, that's out of the NHL's control.
Oh,
They
for
didn't.
sure. There's nothing they can do about it. It's the people at the end of the day on social media.
Yeah.
And that just it's the part of me that just it kind of sucks, right? And
Mhm.
what I mean, you can't
Yeah, I'm with
control
you.
anything about it. It's whatever. It's free speech. You can say what you want, right? But at the end of the day, it's like it just takes away a little bit. Like, man,
Yeah.
like we had such a great game, and for all that shit to kind of
Yeah.
spew out on social media afterwards was just kind of like, it just felt gross afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, to say that I'm surprised would be, a lie because I knew that there was going to be a lot of tension
We all
because
knew.
of it. Of
We all
course.
knew. Yeah.
Do I approve of what the Canadian fans did? No. But at
Mm-mm.
the same time, I also get where they're coming from.
Oh,
Like
sure.
that was kind of the way I felt about the whole situation was it's not great. I don't like that. And I think certainly for the United States, it added fuel to the fire and just gave them
Motivation. You
more
essentially that's what
motivation
you
to
did. You
win that
gave more
game.
motivation. 100%.
Exactly. I think it'll be interesting to see if the United States fans on Thursday do the same thing. I don't think they will. because that just isn't something that I'm not trying
Oh,
to
they'll do it.
say
Oh,
Canada
well,
versus you.
well, I know, but I know,
You know,
like,
I don't
it's
know.
kind of a foregone conclusion. I think they're gonna
We
do
are
it,
in Boston, so it
right?
just depends on how you look at it. I think that
I think they're gonna do it on Thursday.
I just thought it was funny, that the PA announcer was saying in Boston, same thing that the Montreal guy was like, "Oh, like please be respectful of people's national anthem." I don't know if you remember, but before the U.S. Canada game, they said that there was a moment of silence for me, like 3 seconds, and you heard someone yell "F that," and then they started
Oh,
booing
and then
anyway.
they
And it was just kind of like, all right,
yeah.
but like it's this is exactly the problem. Um, as I've always said, when you mix politics with sports, is that you get these really unfortunate situations.
Yep.
I understand that there's only so much that the NHL can do and the players can do, um, but I don't like it when you start making this bigger than it needs to be.
Oh, for
When you
sure.
start using
This is
politics
about
as another
hockey.
reason to hate another country.
Yeah.
So, like, that's what I'm worried. I don't want this rivalry of two great hockey superpowers to be focused on the booing of said national anthem or what is happening between the president of the United States and the prime minister of Canada, or I don't even
The
know
whole
if
tariff
there's
shit show. Yeah.
it's a whole
Yeah.
there's just it's all it's not great. That's the way I'll put it. I
Keep it
want to
hot,
give you
man.
I wanted to give you a positive thing though. I don't know if you
Okay.
saw this statistic. We are talking about the game on Saturday.
Yeah.
So this came from ESPN's public relations Twitter account. I don't know if you saw this image. It was quite awesome.
Mm-mm.
NHL Four Nations Face-Off USA Canada game delivered 4.4 million viewers on average. Now it went up to 5 million at one point. That was the peak that it reached in terms of viewership.
It's awesome.
This is the most viewed non-Stanley Cup Final hockey telecast since 2019. So it's been a while. It's been a
Wow.
while. This is all based on what is called Nielsen Fast Nationals. I've never heard of that in my life. Don't know.
It's the Nielsen family. Yeah.
Other point to make. There was a plus 473% watch rate for this over ESPN's World Cup of Hockey USA Canada game back in 2016. There was a plus 369 percentage versus NHL on ABC's average game per this season.
Yeah.
And as mentioned again, the most viewed non-Stanley Cup final game since 2019. That right there, and this is coming from ESPN. This is not like NHL's account. This is ESPN telling us that, holy crap, this was an unreal game to watch. And I've been scrolling through TikTok. There are people who are not even hockey fans. They're like, "Yo, I'm trying to get into hockey now with all this."
It's
With all
fucking
with
wild.
it's
It's
wild, and
bonkers.
I'm so proud to be a hockey fan because finally, I feel like the hockey world is in the center
It
of
basically took a
everything,
giant dump on the NBA All-Star Weekend,
which
the
was a
Pro Bowl
joke.
in the NFL, which is a joke,
I wish we could talk. I wish this was an
right?
NBA
And
podcast because that would
frankly,
go
I don't
off for
know.
40
Do you
minutes.
think it's better? Like, I think this is. I would make the argument this is still better than the MLB All-Star Game too.
This tournament, 100%.
Yeah, I think it took
Because
a shit on all four major, or excuse me, all the major sporting events.
and I
For break, like the All-Star break
yeah,
wise, it
and I
was a
said
huge turn.
this
It's a massive cultural landscape.
for sure, and I said this yesterday on my Devil's State of Mind podcast episode that I really hope the NHL does not bring back the All-Star game because people don't want it. I'm just being honest. There's a lot of
Yep.
people that don't want it. A lot of us diehard hockey fans don't give a rat's what about it.
Right. Well,
We
yeah, well,
we
I was gonna quickly say, like,
mhm,
now what they're doing is next year, this might change because you get the Olympics next year,
you
right?
do.
The year after that, the World Cup of Hockey comes back, right?
Mhm.
Huge, right? However they want to do the teams, whatever. Year after that's gonna be the Olympics. Every 2 years, it's gonna be World Cup of Hockey and it's gonna be the Olympics the way it fucking should be. The All-Star game
Exactly.
is dead at
It's
this point.
dead. It's a
It's
waste of
dead.
time.
It is a
Yeah.
waste of time for all the players. And like again, full marks to the players because they don't I think for them, after waiting for 9 years, credit to McDavid, where he's like, I might not get another chance. What if who knows what's gonna happen, right? They play like their lives are on the fucking line every single time they meet because they don't know
Right.
when the next time these two teams are going to meet. And it's going to be
Mhm.
different players. This, for all we know, I don't know, does Crosby play in the Olympics next year? This could be it for him on Thursday. right? Who
Mhm.
knows? So the fact that the full marks go to the players, right? Who were
Mhm.
questioned before the tournament, are you guys going to show up for this? And they fucking executed it beautifully. They did a
They
phenomenal job,
Yeah, I
right?
mean,
And
this was they nailed it on the head, and I
yeah,
think I've said before that I feel like the NHL is very tone deaf to its own fans. It felt like for once, Gary Bettman and co. listened to what we were talking to what we've wanted. Now, would it have been
also don't forget, they wanted to do this. They weren't sure how it was going to go. And because of the
right
players, they're now making them more money because you just alluded to it where they said now the most watched game US Canada on Saturday hit 5 million viewers,
at
right?
5 million
And
viewers
that's
at
money in their
once?
pocket and they go,
That's
"Well, if that's
so
going to
much
make us more
money.
money, we're going to keep doing it,"
Yeah,
which
and
they should have
it's
been doing.
exactly. And I think now the NHL, it's a wake up call for them. Like, oh wow, because I guarantee you, like from the time it was announced that the World Cup of Hockey was coming back
Yeah.
to the time that it was first like thought of was about a week.
Right.
I give it a week.
Sure.
They saw what happened. They saw the hype around this and the excitement around it right away, and they were like, "I think we should do this more
It's
often."
like, really? No shit.
Now, I don't
So
like the fact that Team North America or Team Europe is not coming back. I
I'm
still would.
s and you know what? I got
It's
that North America
lame.
jersey, and I'm fucking cherishing that.
Damn,
It's awesome.
I gotta find one.
You gotta go get
Somebody
one.
told me like, "Oh, go
It's
get."
awesome.
You need
It's
to like.
more and it's more special too because it's Johnny Gaudreau North America jersey.
That is awesome.
So, I'm really
I
happy that I have that.
still don't have any USA like hockey gear, which I feel like I should. I'm not gonna get this jersey because, to be honest with you, like I don't think it's as good as other people might say it is. It's okay.
I think it
Um,
suits. I don't know, I kinda
I'd
like it.
prefer I'd prefer the World Juniors jerseys every day
Sure.
and twice on Saturday, but that's me. So if anybody can recommend where I can find a cheap jersey, that would be lovely. That would help me tremendously.
So,
So
Thursday. Let's look ahead. Thursday is the final, massive game. Currently,
awesome.
after the McAvoy injury, I wouldn't be surprised if Canada is now the favorite, right? So we talked about Saturday.
Should we ask our friends from DraftKings
Let's go ask our
Sportsbook?
friends from DraftKings.
There we
Absolutely.
go.
I'll let you look it up, but
Yeah,
just
I'll
to
look
give
it up, tell you.
context here, Cale Makar back in the lineup for Canada. Fairly healthy team going
How
into
does
this
that come
game.
out?
And especially after the game
Oh,
yesterday, right? Where you had Kachuk get
j
injured. Both Kachucks
yep.
apparently are injured. You had McAvoy go down, a little
Mhm.
bit more banged up. And it feels like it's an opportunity. You set it for Canada to go in Thursday and take the bull by the horns, right?
Yeah.
Um,
But the
I think,
United States, and from the United States perspective, I'll just say really quickly, Kyle, is
sure,
this. This is an opportunity for them to finally have the entire world say, "You know what? US hockey is here." Because they've always been close. They've
sure.
always gotten so close, and then they get to, like, Canada or even Sweden,
And
which they
something
still don't
happens.
have success against Sweden, and they falter. I think, look, I said from the beginning of the tournament as a hot take that I thought the US was gonna finish in 3rd because I still don't
I have the
fully
US winning the
you know
tournament. I had them
Right, and
winning.
that's great. I mean, that's great. I just don't want them to go into this game thinking that we can play the exact same way we played against them the first time. No, because Canada will be ready for it this time.
They will not be shut down to 1 goal in this game.
No,
They won't.
no.
They won't. I can't see it happening.
It wasn't
They
like
won't.
McDavid was shut down. It's just that Connor Hellebuck had himself a hell of a game.
Hellebuyck had a great game. I thought defensively they just didn't give Canada room to breathe on Saturday either, which
But
the
now that
US
you've
did a
lost,
phenomenal job of doing it.
now you lose Charlie McAvoy to that back end. Now things get a bit more interesting.
It does get very interesting. And it gets more interesting because how healthy is the US? Is that going to necessarily matter, right?
They're not very healthy.
Do you think the Bruins had a lot of say into this and said, "Nah, pull this guy out. We need him healthy going
I
forward,"
think they
right?
did. I
It
think the
wouldn't surprise
Bruins
me if they stepped in and said, "Fuck that. We're
100%.
taking him back." So,
Yeah,
I think it's a big opportunity for Canada, right? And the other thing I quickly wanted to say about Saturday was that
sure.
for the US, like everybody after online afterwards being like, oh, it's like all high and mighty and stuff. And it's like, okay, fair. They won the game fair and square. They
Yeah.
deserve to win that game because
Yep.
of how well they were structured defensively. And they were able to make most of their opportunities against Bennington. Fully agree. it's like, okay, but let's pump the brakes here a second. You still got to get the job done,
Right.
right? You won a round robin game. Great. It happened before in 2010. Look at how it finished, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's happened before in World Juniors. And frankly, I think the US and the World Juniors has kind of encapsulated Canada a little bit because of how shit they've been. But now you got a chance to like you said it too. They now have a chance to cement themselves as one of now the top dogs. Not that they haven't been, but the success on the world stage, you know, and it's a perfect opportunity to go up against Canada to do it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think predictions for Thursday, I'll say this.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see Canada getting more, or excuse me, I cannot see them getting held to less than a goal this Thursday. I
Mm-hmm.
can't see it.
Yeah.
I think these injuries for the US are going to hinder the team. I think it's still going to be a really close game. I think
Yeah.
it's going to be very, very close. My worry for the US is the longer this game drags on, I feel like the fatigue and some of the injuries that these guys have been nursed with, right,
Yeah.
might come into play because I think
Maybe.
Canada has been a little bit more healthier. It might be, and I might be totally wrong about that, right? I just feel like the longer this game goes on, I still feel like I'm going to give the edge to Canada. I'm not being biased or anything, right? Because again,
Mm-hmm.
I took the US to win this fucking tournament. Had those injuries not come into play, and with McAvoy being out going into Thursday,
Yeah.
I would give the edge to the US because I think they're a more complete team.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest question on Thursday, and we've all been saying it for Canadians, does Jordan Bennington show up? Right. And to be
That's
fair, he's for the goals that he's let in, he hasn't played that bad. It hasn't been awful. The
yeah.
goals have been pretty that have gone in,
The
but
Sweden game could have gone better for him
it
for
could have
sure.
gone better for sure. It
Yeah.
shouldn't really have gone to overtime, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
John Cooper said that Bennington's going to give this team a chance to win. And that's essentially what he's been able to do,
Yeah.
despite some of the duckling goals that have gone in.
Mm-hmm.
So the big thing, and I'll pass this over to,
Mm-hmm.
is this. They changed lines Monday against Finland, right? They stuck McDavid with Point and Mark Stone, right? Braden Point with Connor McDavid looked really, 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 really good on Monday. And that's the scary thing. The scary thing they were able to do with Finland, they were talking about it and they said the defense
Yeah.
is different than the US, but they were able to pick their poison, right? You don't want
Mm-hmm.
to deal with that lineup? Fine. Go deal with Reinhart, McKinnon, and Crosby on that line, right? And they had Sam Bennett, Marchand, and I think it was Konecny on the right side,
Connect the yeah.
Konecny on that side on the fourth line, and they were able to do damage too.
Mm-hmm.
So I like Canada in this. I think it's going to be a 1-goal game. I think it's going to be really close, but I think you alluded to it best. It's a pissed off attitude. I think they're going to be ready to go, and I think they're going to be out of the gate ready to go too. And I
Yeah.
think whatever juice that this team has left, they're going to pump the shit out of Makar, Morrissey, McDavid, McKinnon. The top dogs are going to be the reason
Out
why this
there.
team finds a way to win.
Sure.
If they don't, then the US will come on top. But for
Yeah.
now, I think going into this, I think it's going to be close. I don't think they hold them to 1 goal. I think it's going to be still a very low scoring, tight game. I like 3-2 Canada.
So to go back really quickly, our friends at DraftKings currently have Canada as a plus 1.5
Wow.
underdog going into
Ooh, I
this.
don't like that.
USA's 1.5 favorite. That's about as updated as I could get. Over under for goals, 5.5, by the way.
Okay.
Plus 100 for over 5.5 and minus 120 for under 5.5. And then the money line for both teams is minus 110. So that's courtesy of our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook.
Okay.
Use our code, by the way, THPN. Bet $5, you get
I was
$150.
getting to the ad read. I was getting there.
Well, I'm helping you out because we're 45 minutes into this thing and we haven't done it. And this is the longest we've gone
We'll give
before
your
having an ad.
prediction. We'll do the ad read, and then we'll
Sure.
move on. All right, cool.
Right. So for me with the United States is look, there's no question on my end that there is concern and there's worry because when the United States recently from the professional level has been when they've played Canada, a lot of the times in the last many years, it hasn't gone well. And it always feels like the United States is just one little bit off from knocking them out, from knocking them off, right? And obviously you have guys that are hurt. So you don't have Charlie McAvoy. Matthew Tkachuk, when asked if he's going to be ready to go, he
He'll be ready to
said
go.
that I think they asked him, "Are you healthy enough to play?" And he goes, "I'll just tell you that I'm really excited to play." So the answer to that is no. He's probably pretty banged up, whatever he's dealing with.
Hmm.
Brady Tkachuk, you know,
And
he
real
seems
quick,
to
just
be.
to
Yeah,
just ask a question. Like,
sure.
so he got hurt from the fight on
I
Saturday
believe that was what
because he
happened.
tried
Yeah.
to keep going and then
He
he
tried
took
to keep
starts on
going,
the
then he was on
bench.
the bench and he kept saying, I think he mouthed the words, "I can't go."
Hmm.
So
Okay.
who knows what exactly he's dealing with. Brady Tkachuk, that awkward slide into the net seemed, to hurt him. I don't know what he's dealing with. Um, I think Austin Matthews is fine.
I think
I
he's
think quite
fine.
frankly, they didn't want to play him in that
Man,
game.
how outside of the Mitch Marner overtime goal, I haven't seen Marner or Matthews much in this tournament.
Matthews has been very non-existent, which is really
Yeah.
surprising because you would have thought that he would have been one of the guys
He
to
might be the biggest
really,
X factor going
but he
into
might
Thursday.
be. If he gets a goal, that might really pump up the United States. I mean, that might get them really jacked up
Yeah, he's
and
gotta
going.
get going. He's gotta
Um,
get going, man. He's
I
been
think that
slow, I think.
even though he's had a couple of good games, I think Jack Hughes needs to find the back of the net because you're sticking him on a top line, playing a winger position, which I would argue is a better fit for him than being a center, which
Okay.
I would like to see the Devils maybe consider
Try.
that moving forward. They won't, but I want to consider it. Jack Hughes, even last night, I thought played well. He had a couple of really good chances. It just, Sam Erison just had himself a really good game. He was also playing on a line with JT Miller and Jake Gensel, which, you know, Jake Gensel was good. I think JT Miller is okay.
Hmm.
Very much okay. Um, the United States has to look at this game like they're the underdogs. And I think that maybe some people might look at them that way, considering that they're banged up right now. And
I
saying,
think they do. I think everybody sees it that way now.
and so the United States has to look at it like we're being disrespected again.
Again.
We're being doubted again.
Yep.
Now we got to come out and prove it again. And for the United States, if they can win this tournament and beat Canada twice in this tournament to win it, I mean, is
Yeah.
huge for what it is. And you're playing on your own home ice. You're playing in Boston. You're playing in the United States. You know that it's going to be a pretty big United States crowd. You have to go out and empty the tank. You have to this is the last game.
Yeah.
You got to empty it all now. You got to go balls to the walls and play well. And you mentioned Jordan Binnington. There's something that you did not mention that was mentioned by
Okay.
Pete Blackburn on Twitter, who is a diehard Bruins fan, by the way.
Okay.
He said that this is not the first time that Jordan Binnington is walking into a win or go home big game at TD Garden with everything on the line.
That's right.
And that is true. So Jordan Binnington has familiarity playing in a game of some similar magnitude in that arena.
Yes.
Connor Hellebuck, who's had a very strong tournament, do you count this as similar to a Stanley Cup playoff game? You can. You can. So,
Oh,
if,
absolutely. You have to.
you know,
Absolutely.
there was questions going into this tournament. Was he going to be able to play well? And he has so far. But now it comes down to this game. Everything is on the table. Everybody, if you're even a smidget of healthy, the
You're
guy's
playing.
playing. So if even Matthew Tkachuk is only 75%
He's
good,
playing.
he's playing. If Brady Tkachuk is 25%, he's playing. There's not a debate on that because these guys want to win. These guys want to this means something to them. So the big thing for the United States is you have to feed off of the crowd. You have to feed off of everything. And you have to sit, as sure as he put it, set the fucking tone. And it doesn't have to be drop the gloves 5 seconds into this game, which I
Be
don't think they'll
physical,
do.
man. You have to out
Be
physical this
physical.
team.
Get the first goal. Put that pressure and put doubt in the Canadians that this isn't gonna, you're not gonna. It's not a cakewalk, and you're not gonna. It's not gonna come easy. I
Yeah.
think it'll be a close game. I think it ends up being a 4-2 win for the United States with an empty netter.
Fair.
That's just the way. So it could end up 3-2. I think an empty netter comes, and I just think it'll be. It's going to be an interesting. And I'll tell you this: I think the game-winning goal comes from Kyle Connor from the Winnipeg Jets
Okay.
because he's played well on a third line, but hasn't scored yet. But in these type of games, Kyle, as you know, it's always people you don't expect that end up the ones that make the big play to
Yeah,
win
it's
it.
happened
So,
quite a lot, right? And it's
so
the people that you don't expect to do it, right?
I think Brock
Um,
Dorsey gets a goal for Canada. I think it's going to be a power play goal at the
do
top of
you
the fourth.
think Marchand finds a way to score in his own building?
Yeah, I think
Okay,
he does. I think he
interesting.
does because I think
So
that he's going to get an opportunity to put it in the back of the net. I think this time he's going to
he's
score.
gonna he's gonna
It'd be
take it.
awesome.
So yeah, the way the US are gonna win this game, it's gonna be through physicality and pure will. And for Canada to win this game, it's gonna be by their speed and skill. I think that's just the I
Would
think
you
that's the
argue that
best way to
that
put
was
this.
the game plan for both teams going into the first matchup?
No, but I don't think Canada was expecting that start.
Right.
The US threw them off guard, and even though McDavid scored, the US still stuck to their game plan,
He
and
did.
it
Yeah.
worked, right? I don't know if that same game plan is going to work
Yeah.
Thursday because last thing, and then we'll get to an ad break. You want to best Canada at their own game, you got to beat them twice.
You have to beat him twice.
You
And that
have
will
to beat
be
them twice. You can
and
beat this team once. It's happened before at the
happened many
Olympics.
times.
Happened so many times.
I've seen it.
But you
Yeah.
want to beat this you want to beat this team down, you got to beat them twice, right?
And they will earn so much respect from the hockey world to do that
A
if they
thousand.
were
Oh
able
yeah, for
to
sure. For
do
sure.
that because it you're talking about going up against the country that it's their sport,
Sure.
and
What this is going to prove if the US win Thursday is now they're even Steven, I
yeah,
think, going forward. I don't think that and I didn't like the way that US fans were putting it like we're now at the top of the world. It's like, to be fair, history has dictated that Canada has kind of dominated this throughout. And I'm not trying to showboat or anything, but it's just there,
no,
right?
that's
What this
just facts. That's not even
right.
showboating. That's just facts.
What this is going to prove, though, if the U.S. win on Thursday, is
Hmm.
now that every Olympics and international tournament now going forward, the
Hmm.
U.S. are going to be at the exact same level as Canada.
Right. Right.
That's what that's going to prove. Is
I
that
wish
you
the game was
now
on
have?
Wednesday.
I even would
I
say
wish
like
the,
it's
yeah.
still two even back in the Olympics and all that. It's still two of the most dominant horsepowers on the international stage. It
Yep.
now puts them at even level, right?
It does.
Because you managed to have one good tournament, right? Like, I think that's
One
fair to
meaningful
say.
tournament
A
where you beat Canada
meaningful tournament.
twice,
Yeah, for
including
sure.
the championship game. So
It'll say
it's
a lot.
it's going to be
Yeah.
interesting. You know, I get why this game's on Thursday. You want to give both teams an opportunity to rest up a little bit. Because again, I mean, a lot of these players, they haven't had a chance to rest. They didn't take a break like the rest of the league did.
They don't get a
You know, they
chance. Yeah,
they have no chance. They're not going to get a chance until the summer,
you got it.
essentially, for a lot of these guys. So it's unfortunate. The only thing is that, like, I know that most teams are returning to practice today. I think the Flames
Yeah,
are
today.
too. I
Yep,
might be
everybody
wrong.
everybody gets to return today to
Everybody gets
practice.
to.
Yeah.
Someone told me, by the way, today that like this is the day where there's going to be like 10 trades. I'm like, no, nothing's happening. All right. Everyone was hyping up like trades were going to happen during the Four Nations. Nothing happened.
Right.
We had one minor trade between, I think, the Penguins and Blues, and that was about it because
Yes.
these teams, these teams' general managers are wusses. They
A
don't
thousand.
want to do anything.
They don't.
But
All
I think
right.
we have to, if we're going to talk NHL news, I think we got to talk about all this rumor about Miko Rantanen might get traded at the deadline.
We'll get into all that. I think what we're gonna do first is I think we have to talk about the Flames after the break because this is a Flames show. We haven't talked about it yet. We're
We can talk about
54.
Mackenzie
We knew
Weegar.
though
That's
this
about
coming in
it.
though it was gonna be Four Nations to start. So
Of course.
okay, let's get to this and then we'll move on to Flames news and then all the other fun news as well too. The NHL season has been predictable as a puck rolling on its edge. No one knows where it's going, but that just means there's time for your favorite team to figure things out and games left for you to get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, select your team, and place your first bet. And if you are new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. It's only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Okay. Very quick side note here.
By the way, the Bruins were the ones that put out the statement about
Yeah,
Charlie
they
McAvoy.
100%.
They
100%.
definitely said,
Fuck
no,
that. We're
he's
pulling
not
him.
playing.
Yes.
Sit down.
Side note here. I saw the news this morning. I know this is just baseball stuff, but Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has not reached an extension for the Blue Jays, and he's going to be a free agent.
It's going
And
to be a Met, okay, everybody?
fuck,
It's going to be a Met or a Red
yeah,
Sox.
all I have to say to that is fuck Ross Atkins and Shapiro. They both need to be kicked to the sidewalk. They're fucking donkeys.
Watch the Blue Jays have like a really good year this year.
Peter from 6 in the 6, I quoted him this morning because he made such a good point on Twitter. I had to say something to him where I was like, yes. He said, if you're willing to put out money to Soto and Ohtani, but you can't extend Guerrero, get the fuck out of
And
here.
you didn't even get one of Soto or Ohtani.
Get the absolute fuck out of here. Okay. So let's get into Flame stuff for a sec because we haven't talked since their kind of debacle going into the break. So they were 1-3-1 after the Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee trade. So they stumbled in. The Leafs hammered them on the Tuesday. The Avalanche just simply took over on the Thursday. And then on Saturday, they blew a 2-0 lead with about 4 minutes to go in the third period, evidently getting a point, losing to the Kraken, and are now outside of the playoff picture, 3 points behind the Vancouver Canucks. Still very much in the conversation because a win and a Canucks loss, you're 1 point behind. You know, it's not a huge deficit, right? But the fact that they were up by 5 points, you know, not too long ago, and now being 3 points behind is like, well, you got to give credit to the Canucks playing well. So, excuse me. So after the break, it's going to be...
Schedule is brutal.
It's a brutal test for the Flames, but I think it's needed. It's a brutal test for the Flames. So
whose idea was it? One home game and then go right on the road. What?
Well, so the Flames have had home games for the last like 2 weeks, right?
Fair.
So the lucky part is that, okay, you get San Jose coming out of the break, right? At home. The upcoming road trip looks like this.
Yeah.
Washington, Tampa Bay.
At Washington.
These are all away games.
All away games.
This is actually all their road trip ends right at the deadline. A day before the deadline, okay? Washington, Tampa Bay, Florida, Carolina, Philadelphia, Dallas. That is a brutal road trip.
What a weird way. Like,
it's a weird way to go. I know.
Like, flying wise, I'm like, what a weird
trajectory. It's like you're gonna go to Washington and Philly. It's like knock it off in one stage, man. Don't make them go
knock
to
it
Washington.
off. Like, go play the Islanders, go play the Devils, go play the Rangers in that same
stupid. They go here, they go down here, they go back up here, and then they go across.
Yeah, it's like you go to Washington, down to Tampa, stay in Florida, Carolina, Philly.
Yeah. So
flip the Carolina Philly game, and then you're just constantly going down. Whatever.
So we're about to find out in these next 2 weeks what this team's direction is.
Yeah.
We're gonna find out very quickly. It's been a good year. Even if they miss the playoffs, that's okay, right? Even if they end up missing it, it's okay. But we're about to find out the direction of this team. And it's funny because there's nothing that Craig Conroy can do about it. It's going to be the players on the ice that have to be the ones to make a difference, right? Yeah. It's not a pretty road trip, but it's doable. I think it's doable in the sense of this. I think they have to handle their business against San Jose, number one. Okay?
That game worries me.
I know, it worries everybody.
That game worries me because it's the first game back from the break. It's the most, let's call it, winnable game of this stretch, right?
But your guys are healthy, though. Your guys are fully healthy.
But that's
Same thing with San Jose.
That's the thing, though. Like, everything is set up for the Flames. Like, this is a game you should get.
Yeah.
And then I'm worried you're going to drop the freaking ball on it and lose like 4-2 and play like crap.
It's so true. So assuming that they handle their business against San Jose, I kind of like their chances in Washington. Okay.
Okay.
And I kind of like their chances in
Washington has
Tampa Bay.
struggled a little bit going into the break.
Right. They lost to Utah
They
in
lost to
Washington.
Utah.
So it's like, okay, I'll give them a ballpark's chance here. I like them in Washington and I like them in Tampa Bay. Outside of that, they never do well in Carolina and they never do well in Florida, like in Fort Lauderdale, right?
Hmm.
At Philly is not impossible because you're bringing back Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee to their barn, right?
Yeah.
And the Flyers have played like shit, right?
Unless
And
you
then
get
at
a Sam Erickson
excuse me.
masterclass.
And then at Dallas isn't pretty either, right? So
Yep.
here's what I say, just on the road trip alone, okay? If they can walk out of there, it's 6 games,
Oh,
right?
we're doing this. We're doing this again. We're
Yeah, I
doing
am. I don't
how
care.
many points do you think they're gonna get out of this?
No, I think 6 games, if they can walk away with 3 wins, that's a massive success.
Yeah,
That's a huge success for this team. If
100%.
they can go away 500 from this, that's
500 is the
massive.
goal. 500 or better
Because
is the goal.
I'll quickly tell you some of the games after the deadline, okay?
Hmm.
Right after the deadline, they get Montreal, and then they get Vancouver at home in the Saddle Dome.
Very
Both
nice.
games, okay? Canadians, Canucks. The Avalanche actually also come back to
Yeah.
Calgary, and then they go to Toronto. So
Hmm.
and then they get the Metropolitan trip. Yay! They get
Yay.
the Rangers, Devils, and Islanders. Devils a day after my birthday.
There you go.
So I think we'll have to. I think we're gonna do that one. I think
Yeah,
we're gonna do that one.
I think we'll
Yeah,
definitely do that
yeah,
one.
a little post birthday stream because I haven't done one in a while. So Neil,
Yeah,
on a scale of 1 to 10, how important are these next 7 games, 6, 7 games right before the deadline for the Flames in terms of their season and long term?
I'd say 11 out of 10. And the reason that I say that is because this stretch is going to basically determine to me whether the Flames are making the playoffs or not. Um, but again, you mentioned it that even if the Flames don't make the playoffs, this has actually already been a successful season considering the transition from, the old core to now you have a lot of the guys that want to be here long term
Mhm.
set. You've made I don't know if Craig Conroy is going to make a move at the deadline now, considering that he made that really good move to get Frost and Farabee, which is great because you didn't have to give up a lot and you did it way before the deadline, which means that it wasn't a panic move by any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Craig Conroy wants to rock this roster right now. I don't think he wants to. Um,
I think, and I mentioned it before we left, that I think he just needs to add a little bit of help on defense. That's it. And then
that's fine.
let the players go and figure it out,
And
right?
just let them go and just tell them. And I think what would be really important for them is for them to have like a meeting on the day of the deadline after it's done, after all the moves, and just tell the team, like, look, this is the team that we have.
We
I believe
trust
in
you
we
guys.
trust you guys. We believe in you guys. Just go out and play your game. And you know
Yep.
what? You know, they need an upset win in this road trip, I think. And so I look at games like you mentioned, Washington, I think would be an upset win. I think winning in Florida, meaning Sunrise, I think would be that. Carolina as well. The
I
good
think it
thing,
might be
oh,
doable.
I
Go
just want
ahead.
to say with Carolina, they have been struggling of late.
Mm,
So, they're hanging on to that second um, spot in the Metro by a thread.
you're probably rooting for us in that one.
Oh yeah, 100%. um, to win in regulation, I hope.
Yeah,
That
regulation.
you know,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and at Philly, I think you should win that game. Honestly, Dallas, I argue to say that I think the Flames could sneak out a win in Dallas.
We've done it
Honestly,
before. We've done it
they've done it
before, right?
before. It's not like it wouldn't be the first time. So, like, I agree with you. If they can be like 500 or better, that's a win.
A thousand
That
percent.
that's a win in my book, and that will tell me, okay, this team's going to compete to the very end. Now, if they
They're
go
not
under
going to go
500,
down. Sorry, go ahead.
if they go under 500, is the sky falling? Not necessarily, because
Mhm.
there might be teams like Vancouver in front of them that could also come out of the gates struggling
Yes.
and lose a bunch, and then maybe they're 2
And
points
and
back.
for context too, the meeting they do have with Vancouver after the dawn is their last meeting between the two
Right.
teams.
There you go.
Mm.
And that's a big thing considering it's going to be a run, a photo finish here for the wild card. So
Sure.
this is a really exciting, time in terms of where the Flames are and where they can be by the time this is over, because they play a crap ton of road games in March, like a crap ton.
Yes. I
Now the
think you're
good news
right.
is that the Flames, for the most part of the year, have been good on the road, except recently they haven't been as much.
They
But
started the year really bad on the road.
they started right. I'm getting my things
Yeah,
mixed up.
yeah.
They started
Started
bad on
bad,
the
but
road,
they've done better
but they've done better, which is good.
recently.
There
Yeah.
are there's just a lot of really tough games, but you know what? There's also games that they can get points out of. They can have success with. So you know what? There's no reason, the way this team fights, there is no reason for me to believe that this team can't go out there and get an upset win or two, get some points. I mean, even if you could walk out of every game somehow out of all these games with at least 1 point, I consider that a victory in my book.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
that.
because even after, like, it's a tough little 4-game stretch where they didn't
Mhm.
necessarily play well at home, especially.
Sure.
You know, yeah, they need to eventually go on a road trip because that's something they
You're right.
really haven't been going on. This is the chance to do it, right? They're gonna get a lot of road games coming up, and I'm
Yep.
I'm kind of okay with that, right? Um, but yeah, like, not even to mention Vancouver, like, fuck, the Kings are 5 points in front of Calgary. Like, that's
So
not a
annoying.
stretch either.
So
Like, and
annoying.
don't forget, they play LA at the end of the season, last game of the year,
Last
because they
thing,
had to
can you
reschedule it.
imagine if it comes down to that game?
Bro, they
Holy
had
smokes.
they had to reschedule that game, right?
Oh, that was
So
the forest fire.
that was the forest fire game. They
You
had to
really had to
reschedule it.
shift it to the end of the
They
year.
yeah. Actually, I don't
Right?
actually, you know what? Let me quickly look here because I think this game was already, yeah, you know what? They play twice at the end of the year.
Yeah,
That game's already so I don't know if it probably was already rescheduled, but
yeah.
I think they were already supposed to play LA as the last game of the year. So you play them twice,
Play him
right?
twice at the end. It's a
Right.
big deal.
So look,
Big deal.
on the grand scheme, I wanted to bring this up. This because it's been pretty quiet in the NHL land, right? But I thought the Calgary Herald did a really good job of formulating a path forward. Okay,
Mm.
what it could look like. Okay,
For the Flames, I
for the
assume.
Flames, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So
Great.
here's what it is, right? So it's simple as this. So what should the Flames do? The answer is clear, and I kind of agree with this. Okay. So it's commit to Zane Parek's timeline. Okay. If he develops into
Oh,
a Hughes McCarr level player, he'll be a cornerstone level talent. Build around that timeline, not the artificial urgency created by Wolf's excellence in net.
oh
Right?
yeah.
Very well put. Develop sorry cohort. Okay. So they don't need to be discarded, but they need to be viewed as a future veteran support piece, not the core that will carry the team to a cup.
Got you.
Perfect. He's not the guy, but he damn well deserves to be on that second line, right?
Hmm.
The big one here, sell aging veterans,
Hmm.
meaning Anderson, Kadri, and Coleman. And I want to get to that in a second here when I finish this up. These are players who won't be part of the next Great Flames team, but they can be moved for our assets that help build the team for the future. It should be considered. Keep the draft picks. Don't start selling the future. We know that. Flames are at a crossroads again. This time they need to get a long-term vision right. We talked about Anderson getting a long-term extension, and I think we were both pretty adamant that he was going to get a long-term deal, right? My views have kind of changed a little
Is it
bit.
the Four Nations tournament that made you feel that way?
No, not at all.
Well,
No, 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 not at all.
okay.
Just
I was just
doing a
curious.
little bit more reading, you know, they can be big players in free agency. Okay. Because,
Are we getting Mitch Marner?
well, I'm thinking about this, right? I don't know if maybe
That
they
would be fun if they were big players in free agency, I think.
well, it's
That would
funny
be
because, like, it sucked for Flames fans a little bit because if they wanted hope at Cale McCarr, in next year's free agency kind of went out the window when Rantanen got dealt, right? Because they could have,
Yeah, no way.
locked him down, and then they don't find the money to sign McCarr, and he wants to walk, right?
Yeah,
So, and maybe he still goes free agency. I don't know. He can
maybe,
extend, right,
maybe.
this summer. I agree in the sense that I don't love Anderson long term now. I'm kind of feeling
Okay,
that way now. Even
okay.
after we talked about him getting the extension and being like, yeah, no problem. I'm starting to feel the other way because he's getting up there in age. He's on a phenomenal contract. He's going to get his money, right? You've already locked down Huberdeau to 10 and a half. And, you want to be, I
Unfortunately,
think like, you're right. Like you have to, I think these veterans have to go. I don't hate it.
okay.
I don't think you have to do it now. They won't do it at the deadline. God,
Not
no,
this
they
year.
won't do it at the
No, God,
deadline.
no, no.
Is it something they look at in the offseason? Maybe. I
Potentially,
don't think they do it this offseason. I don't think they do it because they can. Because Anderson's not. Is he a free agent or is he has a chance to extend?
I can
Look
look
it
that
up
up.
for me and see. I'm
Yep.
curious because I think he's only able to extend going into the break,
Yeah.
going into the offseason this year, right? Kadri, I think, you know, I
Mm.
don't know. I think you can get a lot for him, right? But again, he's
Yeah.
alluded to the fact that he wants to be here. I don't hate the fact that he's on. I think the one player I probably wouldn't sell would be Kadri. I think he's a guy I want to foresee through, right? Because for the most part, he's been great filling in as the 1C type role, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think he could fit in nicely as a 2C, which he should be, right?
I think you got to move Blake Coleman low key. I got to be honest with you.
You absolutely have to move Blake Coleman because
Like, and,
the
and that
money's
was
not.
an off-season move because of his cap, I think. So, like, that's the way I look at it personally.
Even if like, look,
Yeah, but they might want him.
even if the Flames have to eat 2 million of it,
Yeah.
right? And I think for Coleman, he's on it for the next year. I think
Yeah, I think he has 1 year after this.
one
I
more
can look that
year.
up too. You
I
wanted,
would still eat $2 million from
yeah,
it,
you
right?
wanted Rasmus Anderson's contract. He has 1 year left after the season
Okay, that's
at
what I thought.
$4.55 million, and then he's a UFA.
Yeah, so they won't move the needle until next year. They will not do it,
No,
right?
no. If the
Because
Flames
he wants a payday, right?
exactly, exactly, and we haven't heard anything about Rasmus Anderson since a month ago when Pierre LeBrun was mentioning that
Yeah,
the Flames wanted to extend him, but
sure.
I'm total. I'm like I'm okay with it, but like here's the thing: the only thing I have against it is that are you trading these guys to acquire more picks, or are you trading these guys to also try to maybe get a player or two that can help you moving forward? Does it say that in the article, or does it say just move these
Oh,
guys?
sorry. Yeah, I should probably finish reading that. Um, these are players who won't be part of the next Great Flames team. If they can be moved for assets, that's all it says, that help build for the future. It
See
should be
that
considered.
screams just draft capital to me, honestly.
I don't like the draft capital.
I don't want it. Like if you're
Yeah,
giving me a young player that can develop, okay, I can go like here's a good example of a trade that Calgary did that I think worked out. Trading Tyler Toffoli to the Devils for Yegor Sharangovich. Because what you got essentially was a younger player, a younger winger that you can get on a team friendly deal that also can continue to develop, who already had experience, several years in the league, and you could develop them.
right.
Now, Sharangovich still needs more consistency, which doesn't shock me,
Sure.
unfortunately. So,
So
or getting
you
even Kevin
mentioned the
Ball,
Devils.
even
Let me
getting
bring
Kevin Ball from
let me bring this up
yep.
because I think this is important, and I think it could be in the ballpark eventually.
Yes.
If they decide that Anderson's going to go, if they want to deal him, okay,
Hmm.
it's been a great relation. We said it. It's been a great relationship
Phenomenal
between the Flames
relationship.
and Devils. It's been great. It's worked for
Yeah.
both sides, right?
Yep.
Would you, as the Devils fan that you are,
Hmm.
look at exploring a trade for Anderson
Hmm.
and in return, Simone Nemec?
For Rasmus Anderson,
Well, just whatever. I don't know what the package
or
looks
would I
like,
look
but
for a trade
that's
that involve, or would I look for a trade involving Shimon Nemec?
you know what I mean. Like
Okay.
if that were presented, right,
Yeah.
is that something you would explore further? Is
See,
my
that's
question.
the thing. I probably personally I wouldn't,
Okay.
because again, Tom Fitzgerald is a big guy that likes to acquire guys that already have term. Now, yes, Anderson does have
Mm,
1 year left on his deal, but depending on when the trade happens, I don't. First of all, I don't see them making that deal, either side making that deal at this deadline.
no, 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 not at the
Because
deadline. I'm thinking off
it
season.
doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. It does even in
No,
the off season,
not at the deadline.
even in the off season, if the Flames are calling, you're still looking at a guy that you get 1 year. And look, you already know how that went down with Tyler Toffoli. You had
Mhm.
him for a year. You tried very hard to extend him. It didn't work out, and then you ended up dealing him at the deadline.
Yeah,
And like, do you want to do that? The Devils, understandably so, rank Shimon Nemec as probably their first or second top prospect right now.
sure.
And he's it's unfortunate that the year has gone the way it's gone for him. And
He just wants more ice time.
obviously, what he said to that European media a couple weeks ago obviously was not the best thing you want to hear. I think that the Devils would only be interested in Rasmus Anderson if they needed, if they really, really needed uh, a, a a more defensive defenseman right now. The
Right,
thing that you have to keep in mind from the Devils is that Jonas Siegenthaler is probably going to be out long term with an injury. He
right.
got hurt in the game against Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago, and that's unfortunate. So that's why Shimon Nemec is up with the big club right now and
Mm,
playing, because they need it. I just don't see a world with that almost $5 million cap hit. I think the Devils would prefer to use that money for something else. So, like,
sure.
I wrote an article just today talking about Jared McCann from Seattle may become available before the deadline.
I
That's a
can see
top
that.
six winger that can score. The Devils would probably prefer to go get someone like him at that cap hit, because you get two, three. If you get him at this deadline, you essentially get 3 years of him on your roster under that cap of 5.5 million.
Yeah.
And that is more of a position of need that maybe the back end.
Mhm.
Now, Seamus Casey, on the other hand, might be a different story,
Fair. Didn't
because
think about that one.
Casey's a guy that I think is not as talented long term as Shimon Nemec, even though he's very good.
Yeah.
But the Devils are in a really interesting spot where it's time, I think, now to stop worrying so
Like,
much
what are we
about
doing
the
type thing,
future
right?
and start worrying about how can you maximize the core you have set now, and
Yes.
how can you benefit them. I don't. So would I explore it? I'd explore it in the off season. I wouldn't
Oh,
explore it
yeah.
right.
No, it was not directed to be at the deadline. It
Yeah,
was more or less like
yeah.
off season,
And you do have that good
maybe going
relationship.
into next
So,
year's
like,
deadline.
you do have that good relationship. So the Devils, I'm sure, could work out a deal where if they wanted to get him, they could get him for probably, I don't know, 25% retained, maybe, if they
Sure.
felt like. I'm sure that a deal could be worked out
I'm sure there
that
could.
way. Conroy and Fitzgerald
I
have
and
done
I
really well
feel
together.
like the way that and we'll move on after this. I
Sure.
feel the way that history is dictated with Conroy so far is he wants guys that just need to play. Either need to
He
play or
does.
just need a different scenery. We saw it in the Frost and Farabee trade. We saw it, we're going to see it from the Lindholm trade soon, because you gave Kuzmenko a chance to play, but you're also going to give Hunter Brustevich a chance to play as well too. He's getting great minutes in the AHL right now, and that's exciting to see.
Hmm.
Um, the Zane Parekh draft pick I thought was critical, and you hope that that's something that like
Yeah.
he's going to be the guy I think that you want to replace maybe Rasmus Anderson, right? And
Hmm.
you have to look at it going forward. Like, is this really the team that we want to have? Like with Anderson and with Uyghur's going to be there long term, right? So
Right.
I think Craig Conroy is going to continue to explore, and it might not be draft picks necessarily, because I alluded to
Right.
the fact that their 2024 draft went really well, right? And then we're going to see the development, and based on what I've seen, and I'm going to see it on Friday because I'm going to watch Henry Muse for the first time. I think
Nice.
he's an exciting player to watch. Um, Jacob Battaglia has done really well in the OHL, and there's a lot of
Hmm.
great prospects on this team that have done sensational so far for this team.
Hmm.
So I think if anything were to happen going forward with aging players that want to go out, he wants to find guys that are playing now. He wants to
Yeah.
find like maybe a quote unquote island of misfit toys where there's just young guys who just
Hmm.
aren't getting a chance to play because of the roster construction
Yeah.
on some of these big teams already.
I have a very interesting player that someone brought up to me. Someone mentioned it from the Devils' perspective, although I think it's very unrealistic. But if the Toronto Maple Leafs re-sign Mitch Marner to God knows what contract they're going to sign him to, there's an RFA that they have that's young that could very well be available for, you know, trade or for even just trying to acquire him, and that's Matthew Nyes.
Hmm.
Because if you're going to give that much money to Marner, where is the money coming for Matthew Nyes?
Right. Right.
And I think with the salary cap going up, I think it's more likely we're going to see guys get qualified
Yes.
that are going to get no, that's not the word. Get what's the what do you do
They're,
like
they're
when
going to
you
get offer sheeted.
thank you. They're going to
Yeah.
get offer sheeted. And the Flames do have a considerable amount of money.
Right.
And if they don't care as much about draft capital moving forward, if you're starting to focus on getting guys who need more playing time, I think Matthew Nyes ain't a bad option to try to go after. But again, you're talking about an off-season type of move,
Yes.
but that's what I'm saying. I think Craig Conroy could look at someone like Matthew Nyes and be like, he could come here and he would be playing a lot more, probably.
Of course. Yeah.
So
It and it feels like they're loading up the cap space to do something big eventually in the offseason, free agency wise, right?
this offseason, you think, or just in
It'll
general?
come, right? Like I think that, you know, yeah, like you can get young and you can get all these guys, but if there's one thing that's been in common with so many of these Stanley Cup winning teams is that they've made the big move,
They
right?
have.
In order, we saw it with Kachuk, we saw it with with Vegas and Jack Eichel. Like, they've made the big move that they think is going to be necessary to put them over the edge and get to the finals, right?
Mhm,
So I think the pieces are there. The pieces
mhm,
are absolutely there. It's still gonna take time, right? It's this 3-year, 4-year plan that they're on. It's gonna
sure.
take some time. I think eventually what's gonna happen is I don't know if Huberdeau is a part of that plan.
I don't think he is.
No, I
I
don't
think that
think he is. But the biggest thing is that for this team, if they can find a way to get out of that in the next 3 to 4 years,
yeah.
it's huge, right?
I wouldn't be
Look at
surprised.
Minnesota, man. Look at their
Yeah,
buyout, and look with Minnesota. They're second place right now.
yeah, and I think that look at St. Louis, and like, granted, I know that. Look at how St. Louis handled the whole Brandon Saad situation, right? They worked on a deal that worked out for both sides. Where like the Blues aren't paying a huge amount,
Yeah,
but Saad gets to be a free agent and go eventually to
wherever.
Vegas.
Yeah,
I think that you could probably do that with Huberdeau because of the fact that it seems like Huberdeau and the Flames have a good working relationship.
and the
I mean,
cap goes
Conroy
up.
seems to have a good working relationship with practically everybody.
Yeah,
I mean, did he rub feathers with Jacob Markstrom at the trade deadline yet? Yeah, he did. He did.
fair.
So that's not great.
It's probably
Uh,
forgotten about though. Let's be
but
honest.
at this point, it is forgotten because, like, I don't think anybody on the Flames right now is pissed off like that Markstrom's gone, especially with the way Dustin Wolf has played. I
Nope.
don't think so. The way that I look at it is simply that if you continue to have that good working relationship, it's going to make things just that much easier when the reality really comes and you have that heart to heart with Huberto and say, look, we appreciate what you've done, but like we're trying to move forward here and have, space and everything for other guys. And we need to figure out what's the best course of action for
Move
both of
forward.
us,
Yeah,
you know?
it'll
So
be interesting, and the cap goes up. So that's
cap going up makes things a lot easier for a lot of teams to do things.
the buyout, and a lot.
To
Yeah,
buy out,
exactly. Yeah.
to offer
Do
sheet.
whatever,
We might get a lot of craziness over the next 3 or 4 years, which I think we
and
talked
we're
about.
here for it.
I'm worried it might lead to a lockout. That's
Yeah.
the only thing that concerns.
Um. So you wanted to talk about the rant and trade, real? So last things we'll
Well, there's a
cover
lot
real
of
quick.
interesting NHL news that has come out over the last
Yeah.
couple of weeks.
Let's quickly touch on that real quick. I just wanted to shout out Huberto got engaged too recently. So
Congratulations.
congratulations to him. And then very quickly before the NHL news, what did you make of Rasmus Anderson's performance in his debut last night for Sweden?
I thought he was fine.
Okay.
Like he was there. I thought he was. Yeah, I
He was
don't really have.
contributing.
Yeah,
Like
so there you go.
nothing good,
He was
nothing bad.
contributing
Like he was just,
defensively, and we'll give him that.
yeah,
He helped with that.
he was
That's
solid.
about it. I'm glad that he was able to get into a game
Me too. Me
because I was
too.
worried he wasn't going to.
Yeah.
I was
So
worried, like,
I think we were all happy that we were able to at least see him in, and
oh
that's
yeah,
that's
I
great.
think that's great that he was able to get into a game.
Yeah. All right, news.
Yeah. So well, it's not really news. It's more just like so. I always tell people take Bleacher Report with a grain of salt. Okay, just like
Oh yeah,
fair warning with this.
absolutely.
Like there have been reports. Well, Frank Saravalli was the first one. He didn't report it. He just made a point of saying, you know, there's been literally no news about Mikko Rantanen extension in Carolina. Like
Right.
none. There's been literally nothing talked about since the deal happened. Now, Mikko Rantanen also doesn't seem like he has fit in completely well in the Hurricanes lineup.
Right.
Jack Drury's been a lot better since he got moved as well, and you could say the same thing about Martin Necas as well for Colorado. But there have been talks, and it was even mentioned when the deal originally happened that the deal was done when it was done to give Rantanen an opportunity to fit in with the team, get a feel for playing in Carolina, the environment, the organization, and see if there's a fit there. And if they feel like that both sides can't come to an agreement, that Carolina may try to move him at the deadline. And
yeah,
it's
yeah.
I would say this, if Eric Tulsky ends up doing that, I'd be very critical of him.
For sure.
Because you
have
made
to.
the big move in the first place.
Yep.
With the idea that you were probably going to re-sign him, and you can't go 0 for 2 in acquiring a big name player at the deadline and then coming out of it not keeping him long term. You did that with Jake Gensel, and you didn't even come close. Now, from what I've been told, I cannot confirm this, but from what I've been told, the Hurricanes have been known to lowball a lot of players.
Right.
Whether it's because it's a lower market or whatever the case may be, wouldn't there be a big concern from the from outsiders' perspective looking at Carolina if they ended up not keeping Rantanen and you go, how do you do this again and it didn't work out and now he's going to play somewhere else? And they mentioned a couple of teams that could fit a trade, and I'll be very honest with you in saying that if Rantanen were to get dealt at the deadline, he's going to go for less than what he originally was acquired
That's
for.
exactly what I was going to say.
And that's the problem. So I would say from Carolina's perspective, it would be really stupid to move him because you're not going to get what you got.
Yeah.
Even if trade,
But the stupid thing is that, and we talked about it, you made the commitment to do this.
You did.
You're all in, man. You are essentially all in on this move. Right? Yeah. And extension or not, I think that, okay, if you're worried about an extension now, boys, we haven't even sniffed the playoffs yet. Get your minds right
and you haven't even got to
get your minds right and focus on the fact that maybe we still need to add more, maybe another goaltender or whatever, because we need to do this.
Like they need to go get John Gibson. Like John Gibson is
whatever goaltender maybe.
No, I'm just saying, like from the standpoint of like, you're not. I'm sorry, but like I can't see the Hurricanes winning with the goaltending they have right now. I don't trust Freddie Anderson. Peter Kochetkov has had some good performances here or there, but in the last couple of years of the Hurricanes being good, they've constantly had to flip-flop goaltender. Remember that one year, what was it, 3 years ago? They had Antti Ranta and Freddie Anderson. They had to keep rotating them every freaking game because Anderson couldn't play well at home and Ranta couldn't play well on the road.
You can't trust Anderson.
You do that.
You can't trust him going forward.
You have it's just trading, like the idea of it. Like, I don't think Frank Saravalli would have brought it up if there wasn't some speculation around that it might happen.
Sure.
So, like, I don't know.
You can't do it. You can't. You've made the
commitment. You're an idiot for doing it.
Yes, you've made the commitment to doing it, and whatever
Just
pieces you
regardless of
may
what you get
feel
back, you're an idiot.
right.
You fucked up.
Okay, even if it hasn't, like, your sample size for this is so small,
It's not
right?
even been a month, I don't think.
Hasn't been a month,
Actually, no, I think
right?
it's pretty close
You
to a month.
have like you've made this like it's all on Tulski at the end of the day because you made the move. You have made the conclusion. You've come to the
Right.
conclusion that you're all in. You're
Right.
all in to go win the cup, right? So
Yeah.
even if they're talking about an extension, it's ridiculous. You need to keep your eyes on the prize here, man. Keep
Mhm.
your eyes on the prize and focus on the fact that we got to go win.
We have breaking news.
Oh fuck.
Quinn Hughes is on his way to Boston as we speak.
Fuck
He
you.
might be replacing
See,
Charlie
that's
McAvoy.
bullshit. See, that's
Now
bullshit, though.
that's not good because
That's bullshit. No, that
that's
that is actually
wild.
bullshit. That's bullshit.
That's
No, 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 no. That's
wild.
hear me out. That's horseshit if that's the case. Because
Yeah,
you told us that we can't like because Quinn Hughes was he announced on the roster before the Four Nations
he
began?
was announced on the roster. Yes.
Okay, maybe it's not bullshit, but still.
He wasn't. To be
So okay,
very
so
fair,
I thought
he was
I thought
announced
I
on the
thought
roster.
so he wasn't okay. So if he was
He
announced on
was.
the roster, fine, okay.
Wasn't Hartley the same thing?
No, so Harley was never announced on the roster, right? Because Cale McCarr got
How
injured.
was so like was he how was he allowed to play? I'm not
So
criticizing. I literally just don't know how this works.
from my understanding, it was that the only way they were, based on injury, if they needed to bring up a guy, it was so stupid, but he needed to be because they were moving to Boston. He needed to be in the area. He needed to be that type of availability. They couldn't pull Mackenzie Weegar from fucking Mexico,
Yeah. The
right?
only thing I'll say is this. The question that I have is that if we're going to go off that same route and talk about Quinn Hughes, the only thing that I can say that could be bullshit, but also fair based on that ruling is that Quinn Hughes was already in Boston watching Jack play.
Wow. So Paul
I
Bissonnette
don't
says
know.
this. The league should just change the rule and allow any player to join the Four Nations. If Canada announced Tom Wilson hockey, Twitter would be fucking insane. This is about
Is Tom
ratings.
Wilson
Bring
Canadian?
in Matthew Olivier for fuck's sakes.
Is Tom Wilson Canadian? I thought he was
He
American.
is. He's Canadian. Yeah.
Really? I thought he was American. I don't know why.
Quinn Hughes is coming.
Quinn Hughes is now.
Hmm.
Look, let me clarify something. Let me clarify something here so that people don't like freak out. Actually, no. Wait a minute. I'm wrong. No, it is Chris Johnson. Never mind. Never mind. It's legit. Never mind. Holy, what the
So
hell?
he is coming to replace
So
Charlie
now
McAvoy.
we yes. So Quinn Hughes is on his way. The Kachuk brothers are playing,
Oh, of course.
and Austin Matthews is clear to play. So this is insane. And that's great. Here's why it's great. Now we add more drama into this game.
It is. It is good for drama.
It's
It
just
is.
like
It is.
now what'll
It
be
is.
really BS is if he scores in the game.
So, but that's the thing. Like, okay,
So I
even if
guess
he
he wasn't that hurt.
let's just say he wasn't announced to the roster, right? Like fucking it's Four Nations. It's not this isn't the Olympics. This isn't, when they set
Imagine
up
this
the
was
World
an
Cup of
Olympic
hockey, right?
situation. Holy
Oh my
shit.
god, if this
Holy
would set the
crap.
fucking world on fire, right?
Oh yeah.
But
Big time.
because it's a Four Nations tournament,
Mhm.
Bizanet said it perfectly. You're doing it for the ratings, right? Bring anybody you fucking want on this
Of
team,
course.
right? Like that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be
Someone said bring in Luke
Thomas
Hughes as
Harley is
well. Yeah, it's
right. It's
bring
like,
the whole
oh, he
Hughes
has to
brothers.
there's rules to this. It's like, fuck that. This is just
Ain't no
spark back
rules.
the international game, and it has. It's like, do
Ain't
it
no
for the
rules.
bring
This is
fucking
fun
Tom
time.
Wilson in, man.
Yeah. This is fun time.
Seriously.
Yeah,
It
what the
is.
hell?
It is fun time. I'm pissed that Wilson isn't here because we need him. So yeah, I get it. I
Yeah.
understand Quinn Hughes coming back because he's on the roster. Makes sense. That's fine. Right. But just take out the rule, right? If your guy gets injured, bring anybody who's available to come in,
Yeah.
right? It should be their choice, right?
Yep.
For a tournament like this,
Yep.
you know? If it's the Olympics, it's a different story. They have their own set of rules.
And
For when they set up the World Cup of Hockey, it's going to be their own set of rules too.
right. And I think the other thing to keep in mind is that you can't fully knock on the US for doing this if it was allowed,
Yes.
because again, we're going off of the fact that the Bruins were the ones that announced that Charlie McAvoy wasn't playing. So essentially the Bruins said, no BS on that, he's not playing.
Yeah.
So that meant that unless you make a move like you're making with Quinn Hughes, you are essentially shorthanded going on the back end going into the final game.
Yes.
Um, and I guess maybe the Canucks were like, okay, it's just one game. It's not going to kill us unless he
Right.
gets hurt. And that also probably tells me that the injury that he sustained, whatever it was, because it was in warmups, if you remember, it was
It was in
something weird
warm-ups.
like
That's
that,
right. Yeah.
that it probably wasn't too severe, that sitting out for 2 weeks, like, I don't know. Or maybe it's just that Quinn Hughes was like, I don't care. I'm 50% healthy. Put me on the fucking
Let's
ice.
go.
I'm not trying to win. I'm not trying to lose this effing game.
It makes him interesting. Makes it very interesting now, doesn't it? Because you wonder how he's gonna you're only getting a day of practice,
You're getting literally a day of
realistically.
practice, and it's like, all right, go play.
Pretty much.
Who are you playing with?
And it's guys that he's never played with before. That matters, man. I don't know. Because now they expect him
I
to be
like
the
that we
quarterback.
stayed on for this long. Because if it was our usual like hour,
Oh, I know.
we would not have been able to
We
talk
would
about
never
it.
have seen this. I
Like,
know.
no. But this is insane.
He
This is
can't be the
insane that this is happening.
they're expecting now, if they get on the power play, he's gonna have to be quarterbacking that power play.
And now this will get more people to watch because now you get the
Woo!
Hughes brothers playing together with the
Oh, the
Kachuk
hype
brothers.
hype has now
The
gone
hype
up
is ridiculous.
significantly. Yes.
Now, if
Yeah.
only we could get Bob Wischusen to do the game on ESPN, that would
So Bissonnette goes like this. I'm
fun.
not scared Quinn Hughes got added to the Four Nations. I think Canada is going to work the United States Thursday. Nate Dogg, Sid, McJesus, McCarr, Marchand ain't losing this game. That's a bold statement,
Okay,
man.
so this is the difference between Bissonnette on social media and Bissonnette on TV. Because literally last night he was saying that like he was giving the US a lot of credit. He was giving them like, oh, like, this is still a very dangerous team.
Yeah.
And he goes on Twitter and says that.
Did you know that Matthews was out last night?
Yeah, I did.
I didn't know that. I thought he was
Because
playing.
he he was dealing with a lower body injury. I don't know. But my attitude with him was that he's a little bit banged up. Whether you want to say it or not, last night's game didn't really matter in terms of whether or not the US was going to play in the final game or not.
Right.
They didn't want to take any chances. And again, how much say does the US have, and how much say is it from the NHL teams telling them don't play this guy or this, that, and the other thing?
Right.
I don't know. It's damn.
Dang.
So, do you think Jack Hughes is pumped up right now?
Yes. For sure. 1,000%. Well, that's interesting.
Woo! Damn.
That's wild. Wow,
So
wow, 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 wow.
Is Dustin Wolf gonna suit up too?
Can you imagine? It's funny because I don't even with how
Yeah.
deep the US netminer is. Dustin Wolf,
He may never get a good shot.
I don't know if he'll ever play, right?
It's
I don't
unfortunate.
know.
Kind of. Well, the way
Whatever. Hey, we have him. I don't
Jeremy
care.
Swayman's playing,
Keep
I
him
don't know.
healthy.
He might
Keep
have a
him
better
healthy
shot.
for us. Keep him healthy for us.
It's just insane. Like
Oh
that.
fuck.
Wow.
All right.
What a ballsy
What I
move.
think we'll do is this.
What the
I
hell?
think we'll go with our usual show to make up for a bit of lost time because I feel bad. I think we'll do a short show on Thursday. And then I think we're going to do one Friday because I think we have to recap this game.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what we'll do.
Elliot Friedman with the best tweet of the day. He goes, "This tournament is like the Royal Rumble. You don't know what's going to
That's
happen."
right.
Someone said,
Cue the music.
yeah, no, they're like, I love the. Oh, what is it? Oh, someone said Canada should bring in Zach Hyman to counteract.
I think Hyman should have been on this team. I think
Yeah.
Hyman should have been on this team. Yeah.
No, and then someone said someone get Leon Draisaitl his Canadian citizenship real quick so he can suit
and then
up.
you hit with like the rock music, right? Like does the intro.
Holy cow!
Oh my god.
My
That's funny.
God! Yeah, dude,
Oh,
like right now, like the NHL has taken everything from like WWE to like everything and just be
it's
like, we are
awesome.
gonna make this tournament
It's
everything.
awesome. Now it's like, yeah, you have to bring in Tom Wilson, man. Like,
So
screw it.
someone gonna make the Michael Jordan newspaper post where it's like it just Quinn Hughes, like 2 words, I'm back. Bro,
It might.
that's in
All right,
what
that's a big pickup. That's a big
is
pickup.
that like Superman coming out? Like, is that like same vibe? It's like out of nowhere, just like
It very well could be.
Superman
It
comes.
very well could be. So I think we'll end
Gonna
it there.
score. I
And
guarantee you he's gonna get on the board and it's gonna piss off everyone.
of course it will. There might be more news between now and Thursday's game.
Who's
Will
next? Who's the
who
next guy to come out
knows?
of the Carey Price
Thursday,
is making his return and starting for Team Canada
no
and
kidding. Can you imagine?
oh no.
Thursday
46.
we'll get you set for
Oh,
the final. We'll get everybody set for that. Round robin play is complete, and we will have a full reaction on Friday. We'll figure out availability and all that, but this is going to be a fun couple of days
insane.
coming up, man. This is going to be good.
Oh my god, dude, this is great. This is the drama that the NHL has been needing for years.
All right. With that, that'll wrap it up. Crazy day. Neil, good as always. Thanks for coming back.
My
Appreciate it.
pleasure.
And we will, it's a short week, so we're going to get out as a couple episodes this week. I think we have to. So we'll get out one for Thursday, and we're going to recap for Friday. So thanks for checking us out, listening to us, and we'll see you all on what's going to be a crazy day on Thursday. We'll chat then, and we'll see you soon. Peace.